Chapter 5787. Everyone was exhausted from the previous exchange of blows. Sitting on the green grass, the warm sunlight shone on their bodies, dispelling the cold from before. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the Holy Maiden Crystal. In the previous critical moment, she had accidentally discovered the method to use the Holy Maiden Crystal's healing ability. She finally understood why she had not succeeded before. First, it was because there was no one around her who was injured when she tried, and second, it was because she needed to chant to resonate with the Holy Maiden Crystal. Previously, when she had used the power of light to awaken everyone from the illusion, she had used the chant to amplify the effects of the power of light. At this time, she found that there was a connection between herself and the Holy Maiden Crystal that was not there before. Thinking about it, Bailey Hongzhuang began to chant. After everyone heard the chant, they all turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and immediately found that a rich light energy had wrapped around everyone. The faint green light entered everyone's body, causing their injuries to heal quickly. They had already experienced this feeling once, but when they experienced it again, they could not help but feel that it was magical. The Holy Maiden Crystal is really worthy of being a sacred object of the Holy Assembly. This healing ability is really amazing. Even pills cannot compare to it. Jiang Wenyan looked at the dazzling Holy Maiden Crystal in amazement. Hongzhuang, you really are the real Holy Maiden of Light. I heard that the Holy Assembly had tried many methods in the past, but they were still unable to stimulate the healing ability of the Holy Maiden Crystal. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, and her beautiful face became even more beautiful. I have also studied it for a long time, but I have not been able to figure it out. This time, it could be considered a blessing in disguise. Sister, now that we have the Holy Maiden Crystal, we do not need to waste time healing. Bali Yin-che smiled brightly, his smile as bright as the moon. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked. There are many benefits to following me. With their injuries healed, everyone's spirits were also lifted, and they stood up one by one to continue on their journey. It is best for us to meet up with everyone as soon as possible and tell everyone about Junling Xuan, so that everyone can be mentally prepared. Bewitching's expression was solemn. With the enmity between them, if the practitioners of the Di family and the Lin family saw Junling Xuan alone, they might take the opportunity to attack him. However, with Qing Devil's means, the disciples of the family were no match for him. Therefore, they had to tell everyone as soon as possible. They could not let everyone die. Everyone nodded. This was indeed the most urgent matter. It wasn't easy to reunite with everyone, but now we're separated again in the blink of an eye. Bailey Yin-che smiled helplessly. But at least we're together. Everyone will be surprised when they see us. When we suddenly disappeared, everyone probably thought we were dead. Now that we reappear, it will indeed be surprising. Jiang Wenyan chuckled. It is quite interesting to think about it. Ling saw that Bailey Yin-che and Jiang Wenyan were in a good mood and felt a little helpless. The two of you are really open-minded. We don't even know where we are right now. It'll be even harder for us to meet up with everyone. Ling, this depends on Wenyan. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Jiang Wenyan mysteriously. Jiang Wenyan's smile was tinged with a trace of complacency, and he nodded. Chapter 5788. At times like this, we need a map. Jiang Wenyan smiled proudly. Bewitching was shocked. You have a map of the ancient battlefield? How is that possible? Bali Yin-che was dumbfounded. It was the first time that the ancient battlefield had appeared in the upper realm. Logically speaking, no one should know the layout of the environment, let alone have a precise map. I was lucky to get it by chance. Jiang Wenyan took out the map. However, the map only shows the general situation. We need to know more about the surroundings before we can determine where we are. Bewitching took the map and looked at it carefully. He noticed that the pavilion in the middle of the lake was marked on the map. He was even more surprised. It really is a map of the ancient battlefield. Do you think I would lie to you? Jiang Wenyan chuckled. We're now on the grassland. There are no obvious features around us, so we need to continue to move forward to determine our location. It's much easier with this map. Let's go. Bewitching relaxed a lot. In a huge, ancient battlefield, they were like headless flies when they didn't know where they were. However, everything was much easier with a map. As the primordial battlefield was just too big, they only confirmed their location after walking for a day and a night. Jiang Wenyin looked at the map in his hand and said, "We are now quite a distance away from the pavilion in the middle of the lake. I'm afraid it will take some time to walk back. Most importantly, I feel that even if we return to the pavilion in the middle of the lake now, everyone won't be there anymore." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. They had spent a lot of time healing their injuries. Moreover, the inheritance of the pavilion in the middle of the lake had fallen into the hands of Xiren and Yingying. At that time, she noticed that after Xiren and Yingying arrived at the pavilion in the middle of the lake, the zither music had disappeared. As such, it was even more impossible for the other cultivators to go to the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Since that's the case, let's go to the nearest marked spot on the map, Bailey Hongzhuang said. She had seen the map and knew that there were other marked places besides the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Obviously, these places were very special. Jiang Wenyin looked at the map in his hand and said, "This is the closest place to us at the moment. Are these red stones drawn on the map?" Di Beichen also looked at the mark on the map. "It is indeed a red stone. Could it be that this stone is a treasure?" Red stone. Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. She quickly walked to Di Beichen's side. Her eyes lit up when she saw the red stone on the map. She was no stranger to it. "I think this red stone might be something special there, just like the pavilion in the middle of the lake. We'll know when we get there." Bali Yin-che looked indifferent. After seeing the situation of the pavilion in the middle of the lake, he felt that there were treasures here, but it was extremely difficult to obtain them. "Does it look like this?" Bailey Hongzhuang took out a red spirit stone and showed it to everyone. Everyone was attracted by Bailey Hongzhuang's voice. After noticing the item in her hand, everyone was stunned. Chapter 5789. "Hongzhuang, what's that in your hand?" Jiang Wenyin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in surprise. He was the first to meet up with Bailey Hongzhuang. This was not something that they had seen together. "This is the only thing I've found." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. "Earlier, after I left the fog, I kept moving forward. Later on, I saw this red stone somewhere. There were quite a few of them. I realized that other than the difference in color, these things are even more powerful than high-grade spirit stones. So, Xiaohei and I collected all the blood spirit stones we saw." With a wave of her hand, Bailey Hongzhuang tossed a blood spirit stone to each of them. She smiled and said, "Take a look. What do you think?" Everyone held the blood spirit stone. The fiery red color reflected a dazzling light under the sunlight. It was as magnificent as a gemstone and extremely beautiful. Under the beautiful color, it contained an incomparably pure energy. After sensing this, everyone couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. To them, the effects of high-grade spirit stones were already extremely good. It was just that high-grade spirit stones were too few in number. They couldn't always use high-grade spirit stones for cultivation. However, the energy in the blood spirit stone in front of them was even purer and denser than that of high-grade spirit stones. If they could use the blood spirit stone to cultivate, their cultivation speed would definitely be even faster. "This is a blood spirit stone." Ling Er, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. Hearing this, everyone turned to look at her. Ling was the only one among them who knew about the immortal region. However, because her memories had been sealed, there were many things that she could not recall. However, she seemed to remember this blood spirit stone. Blood spirit stones are of a higher grade than high-grade spirit stones. They are very helpful to cultivators. Ling did not continue speaking. According to her vague impression, the cultivators of the immortal region seemed to use them for cultivation. After receiving Ling Er's affirmation, Bailey Hongzhuang was completely relieved. Although the color of this spirit stone was a little flirtatious, it was indeed a first-class treasure. "Then let's not hesitate anymore. Let's hurry over there. If we're late, we might lose the treasure," Xiaohei quickly said. As a money grubber, She was the most anxious at this moment. Although he and his master had picked up some earlier, there was no such thing as too much good stuff. Seeing Xiao Hei's anxious look, everyone could not help but chuckle, but their footsteps unconsciously quickened. No one was willing to miss out on such a cultivation resource. Master, if Qing Devil really used Jun Lingshuan's body to return to the Jun family and took the opportunity to deal with the D family, is it possible for us to ask Granny Hua for help? Xiao Hei asked with concern. Even it could imagine how troublesome the situation was. At that time, if they really couldn't suppress it, perhaps only the people from the immortal realm would be able to stop all of this. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyelids drooped slightly, and her eyes sank into darkness. She fell silent for a moment, then said, "I'm afraid it'll be a little difficult." Di Baicha nodded. "According to our daily interactions, Granny Hua and the others take great care of us. However, based on their character of staying in the abandoned immortal forest, they probably don't want to care about other things. They don't want to get involved too much in the affairs of the immortal region. They only want to live a carefree life, not to mention coming to the upper realm to help solve problems." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen. On this point, she and Di Baichen had the same opinion. Previously, when Granny Hua told her about some mysterious things, she knew that Granny Hua's way of thinking was very open-minded. It was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Chapter 5790. Even though they didn't want this to happen, sometimes fate couldn't be changed. Perhaps it was God's arrangement. Many times, an upheaval or catastrophe would cause chaos in the world, and people would be plunged into misery and suffering. However, the whole continent could also become stronger after such a catastrophe. Before such a thing happened, no one knew whether the final result would be good or bad. She had heard about such a situation from her mother-in-law before. At that time, she was very shocked. However, when she thought about it carefully, she couldn't deny that there was something wrong with it. "Don't worry so much. Perhaps the situation isn't that bad." Di Baichun smiled warmly, and the haze in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes instantly dispersed. "Although Qing Devil is great, he was defeated by me before and has stayed on the ancient battlefield for many years. Luck may not always be on his side. We'll find a solution." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. After experiencing the incident at the pavilion in the middle of the lake, she felt that there was always a way out. You may feel that you are at a dead end now, but you will never know if other possibilities will appear until the last moment. Therefore, you must never give up. Everyone quickly rushed towards a location marked with the Blood Spirit Stone. Although the distance marked on the map wasn't very far, it was still far away. After rushing for several days, they still hadn't arrived. The ancient battlefield is really terrifying. It's a pity that we didn't get any information about the ancient battlefield from Qing Devil. Bali Yin Che sighed. Ling glanced at Bali Yin Che. In that situation, everyone wanted to survive. Who want to know more? Di Baichun? Suddenly, a voice full of surprise was heard. Di Baichun turned his head to the right and saw Murong Jing and the cultivators from his family walking toward them. "It's really you." After confirming that he wasn't mistaken, Murong Jing sped up and rushed over. His face was filled with disbelief and joy. "Murong." Di Baichun also showed a comfortable smile. Although Murong Jing was his elder brother's best friend, their relationship was also very good after several contacts. "It's great to see you all." Murong Jing's gaze swept over Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Then he hugged Di Baichun and said, "I've heard people say that you've fallen at the pavilion in the middle of the lake. I've been sad for a long time because I always felt that with your strength, this shouldn't have happened. Now it seems that I was right. You guys are really lucky." Di Baichun could feel Murong Jing's heartfelt joy, and his heart felt very warm. "We were lucky. Otherwise, we would have lost our lives." Murong Jing then looked at Jiang Wenyin. "Wenyin, you're really hanging out with Baichun and the rest now." "Of course." Jiang Wenyin raised his eyebrows. "If you're interested, you can join us." "You're really calm." Murong Jing chuckled. "You don't know how sad your family was when they found out about your accident. You'd better find your team as soon as possible so that they can rest assured." Chapter 5791. Looking at Jiang Wenyan's helpless look, Murong Jing chuckled. It seems that the place you came from is really deserted. However, this also proves that we are fated to meet. Indeed. Jiang Wenyan nodded. It's good to meet you. Murong, have you seen my big brother? Di Baichen asked. He had seen many cultivators when he was at the pavilion in the middle of the lake. However, he had not heard any news about his big brother until now. He did not know how his big brother was doing. No. Murong Jing shook his head. Murong Jing shook his head. I met Lin Taxing a few days ago. The cultivators of your family were with him. I also asked him about Xiaofeng, but so far, no one seems to have seen him. Hearing this, Di Baichen frowned slightly. It had been a while since they entered the ancient battlefield. Although the area was very large, most of the cultivators had already met each other. It was really strange that there was no news about his big brother for so long. Noticing Di Baichen's worried look, Murong Jing comforted him. Don't think too much. Xiaofeng will be fine. The area here is too large. Maybe he had some fortuitous encounter. I hope so. The haze in Di Baichen's eyes dissipated. He was also very confident in his big brother's ability. Now that Jun Lingxuan had fallen and Xiao So had died, there should be no problem if there were no accidents. Murong, I have to tell you a piece of shocking news. What news? Murong Jing raised his eyebrows. Apart from your safe return, what other news can surprise me? Jun Lingxuan has been possessed. As soon as these words came out, Murong Jing and the cultivators behind him were all stunned. Their mouths were wide open as they looked at Di Baichen in disbelief. This news was really too shocking. Di Baichen, did I hear wrong? Murong Jing was dumbfounded. He has been possessed. Who has possessed him? I seem to have heard that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So disappeared with you. It seems that something terrible has happened. The possessor is called Qing Devil. He is extremely powerful. He must have been trapped in the ancient battlefield for a long time and is good at illusions. Originally, he intended to kill all of us, but fortunately, Hong Zhuang broke his illusion at the last moment and escaped. That's right. That fellow's strength is truly terrifying. We feel that we should inform everyone of this news as soon as possible. We must be careful if we encounter him, Jiang Wenyan added. Murong Jing remained in a daze for a long time after hearing everyone's words. Possession, this was something they all knew, but in reality, the probability of it happening was not high. The same body, but a different soul. Just the thought of it was enough to make one's hair stand on end. If this didn't come from your mouths, but from someone else, I definitely wouldn't believe it. Murong Jing sighed. He did not have a good impression of Jun Lingxuan, but it was too hard to accept that he had ended up like this. Let alone you, even we find it hard to believe. However, it happened right in front of our eyes. Did Xiao So escape? Did you kill her or let her go? Murong Jing asked doubtfully. Bailey Hongzhuang spread her hands. This is very strange. After breaking the illusion, all of us left except for Xiao So. Perhaps she was captured by Qing Devil. Chapter 5792. According to what you said, the Qing Devil is so powerful and has taken over Jun Lingxuan's body. Won't it be troublesome if he uses Jun Lingxuan's identity to stir up trouble? Murong Jing quickly thought of the trouble. This was not just a family's disaster, but the entire upper realm's trouble. That's what we're most worried about now. But we don't have a solution for now, Bali Yanche said helplessly. We don't even know where he is now. We'll have to be careful if we meet him again. Murong Jing's face darkened. The other party would definitely not let Di Baichen and the others off. If he deliberately hid it, coupled with the power of the Jun family and the Xiao family, it would be really troublesome. Di Baichen nodded slightly. We can only take one step at a time. I hope we can improve our cultivation as soon as possible. I think it's difficult. Murong Jing shook his head and sighed. This ancient battlefield is really strange. Along the way, apart from hearing that Xiren and Yingying obtained the inheritance of the pavilion in the middle of the lake, I didn't hear about anyone else's gains. This place is so big. We might end up with nothing when we get out. Murong Jing was not the only one. The cultivators of the Murong family also looked dejected. It was not easy to come out and gain experience. If they did not gain anything, they might as well stay in the family and cultivate. Deep Beichun smiled faintly. Let's go. I'll take you to a good place. Murong Jing was surprised. What good place? Why are you asking so many questions? You'll know when we get there. Jiang Wenyin smiled proudly. Murong Jing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other secretive looks and could not help but feel even more curious. However, he also knew that Deep Beichun and the others would not lie to him. Since they said it was a good place, there must be something to look forward to. The cultivators of the Murong family followed closely behind Murong Jing. Since they were walking aimlessly, it was naturally better to have someone to guide them. Di Beichun and the others walked in the direction indicated on the map. They had been on the road for a few days, and now they were much closer. After another 3 days, they stopped when they saw the iconic tree in front of them. That's right. This should be the place. Di Beichun stopped and turned to look at Jiang Wenyin. Jiang Wenyin nodded slightly. He had the same idea as Di Beichun. Murong Jing looked at Di Beichun and Jiang Wenyin's determined appearance, and then looked around. This was a completely open space. There was nothing here. What kind of good place was this? Stop keeping us in suspense. What's so special about this place? This was also based on what Bailey Hongzhuang had said earlier. This place was flat ground. Other than being underground, they could not think of any other possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not doubt the situation on the map. They used their mental power to check the ground. However, after a quick inspection, everyone discovered something different. This place is so strange. It's difficult to use mental power to penetrate the ground, Bali Yin-che said in surprise. Chapter 5793. Now that they were standing on this piece of land, their mental power could only reach a depth of about 2 meters. They could not see anything further. This was too strange. There's something strange about this place. Murong Jing looked surprised. If he had some doubts before, he was now certain. Since there was something strange about this place, there must be some treasure in this place. Otherwise, such a strange situation would not occur. After everyone tried and found that the situation was similar, Linger said, "It seems that we can only dig." Dig? Bailey Yin-che was stunned. This place was so big that no one knew where the blood spirit stone was. Although there were many of them here, it would be troublesome if they had to dig one by one. Other than this, can you think of any other way? Linger asked. Bailey Yin-che shook his head. Other than this seemingly stupid method, he could not think of any other way. Everyone looked at each other and could only start digging. However, with their status, they would not normally put digging tools in their storage rings. Hence, the scene became very interesting. Everyone did not dig randomly. Instead, they dug 3 feet into the ground. However, after digging a large hole, they helplessly found that they did not find anything. It can't be that there's nothing here, right? Xiao Hei could not help but ask. Everyone had been digging for so long. In any case, there should be a consolation prize, right? If there was nothing, it would be too depressing. It can't be. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. According to their judgment, this map could not be fake. The situation marked on it could not be wrong. Could it be that we're using the wrong method? Bailey Yin-che asked. Why don't we each try our luck and find a place to dig? Everyone looked at each other. At this time, they might really have to try their luck. I really don't understand. What are you trying to dig here? Murong Jing led his people and dug here for half a day. Until now, he still did not know what Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were trying to dig here. Wife. Di Beichun turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood and threw a blood spirit stone at him. Di Beichun raised his hand to catch the blood spirit stone and handed it to Murong Jing. This is what we want to dig up. Murong Jing looked at the blood spirit stone in his hand. This was the first time he had seen such a thing. However, after sensing it carefully, he discovered that this thing was different from the rest. What a rich origin chi. Is this a spirit stone? Murong Jing asked in surprise. Di Beichun nodded. That's right, this is a blood spirit stone. Its value is even higher than a high-grade spirit stone. You're saying that there are blood spirit stones underground. That should be the case. However, it seems that obtaining this blood spirit stone won't be easy. Bewitching spread out his hands. He hadn't expected such a situation. If it was said that Jing had a lazy attitude when he was digging earlier, then at this moment, it was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. A high-grade spirit stone was already an extremely precious cultivation resource. Now that a blood spirit stone, which was even more precious than a high-grade spirit stone, had appeared, how could he miss the opportunity in front of him? Chapter 5794. They had stayed in the ancient battlefield for so long, but had not gained anything. They did not even have a target. Now, they had finally found their target. Even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground, they had to dig up this treasure. This was a real reward. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but laugh when they noticed the changes in Jing's group. Sure enough, they would only work hard when they saw the benefits. Jing felt a little embarrassed when he noticed everyone's gaze. He smiled sheepishly and said, "If you had told me earlier, wouldn't I have put in more effort? Haha, don't try to hide it. We've seen through you." Jiang Wenyan sneered without giving him any face. Everyone found a place to start digging. However, the result was still very frustrating. After digging for a long time, they did not find any trace of the blood spirit stone. How could this be? Bailey Hongzhuang could not understand. If there really was a blood spirit stone here, with so many of them digging, one of them should have found it, right? How could they not have found anything? Bewitching also stopped digging. This situation might be a little different from what they had predicted. If they did not understand this point, they were afraid that no matter how long they dug, it would be useless. "Wife, what was the situation when you found the blood spirit stone? Tell me more about it." As Bewitching spoke, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They were also curious about the situation. "When I found the blood spirit stone, it was very easy. It was exposed on the ground, and part of it was buried under the ground. Xiaohei and I just dug up a little and picked it up. The environment here is different from the ancient battlefield. The soil there does not have such characteristics." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xiaohei. Xiaohei also nodded. "That is indeed the case. It was very easy back then. How could it be as difficult as it is now? Perhaps it's a problem with this area." Bewitching said in a low voice. His eyes were filled with thoughts. After spending so much time digging, the sun had gradually set below the horizon, and night had begun to fall. Everyone sat on the ground dejectedly, trying to figure out where the problem had come from. At this moment, another team arrived at this area. Bewitching's eyes lit up when he saw the leader of the team, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. "Wenyan, the person in the lead, seems to be Huang Futing of the Huangfu clan, right?" Jing used a shoulder to nudge Jiang Wenyan as he spoke in a low voice. Jiang Wenyan nodded slightly. "That's right, it's him. I heard that he entered the ancient battlefield as a mercenary this time. The dignified young master of the Huangfu clan has actually fallen to such a state. It really makes one sigh. In the past, I didn't think it was a big deal. After all, the dark element has always been disliked by others. However, ever since I saw what the Di family did to Beichun, I feel that the Huangfu family's decision back then was a little too much. So what if it was of the dark attribute? Why do you have to force him to this extent? The competition between the Huangfu clan's disciples is even more intense than what we've seen. Everyone kicks a man who's down, so it's not strange for such a situation to occur." After listening to the conversation between the two, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Huang Futing with a complicated gaze. Chapter 5795. Only by establishing the Dark Sacred Assembly could the Dark Power be accepted by everyone. Only in this way would the cultivators of the Dark Attribute not be discriminated against. Not every family would be as tolerant as the Di family. Many cultivators did nothing wrong and were treated like this just because they awakened the wrong attribute. Thinking about it, this was indeed ridiculous, but it was true. After seeing Bewitching and the others, Huang Futing could not hide the surprise on his face. Previously, after hearing that Bewitching had fallen, all of them had fallen into endless grief. Bewitching had given them hope back then. Because of Bewitching, they had a direction to work towards. Although everyone had worked hard to improve their cultivation during this period of time, their hearts were unprecedentedly calm. This was because they were eagerly looking forward to the day when everyone would take them seriously. After living in the dark for too long, they only hoped that one day they would be taken seriously by everyone. Bewitching had taught them the cultivation method of the dark attribute, which was why they were where they were now. However, if Bewitching had fallen, then it seemed that they would return to their previous dark and hopeless lives, which was something they absolutely did not want to see. Even if they had only known Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang for a short time, these two people occupied an extremely important position in their hearts. For the past few days, everyone had been unable to sleep or eat well, and they were always worried about this problem. It was not until this moment that everyone was completely relieved. It turned out that the news was not true. Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang were still safe and sound. Noticing the expressions of Huang Futing and the others, Bewitching had already guessed their thoughts. He chuckled and said, "Are you surprised that we are still alive?" Huang Futing originally thought that with so many people present, he did not dare to acknowledge Bewitching. At this moment, after hearing Bewitching's words, he also relaxed. When we heard the news that you had fallen, everyone was unwilling to believe it. Until now, everyone still hasn't calmed down. It's great to see that you're all fine. Not only Huang Futing, but the cultivators behind him nodded as well. Although they didn't say anything, their joy and excitement could be seen from their expressions. Jiang Wenyin and Murong Jing were a little surprised when they saw how close Bewitching and Huang Futing were. They didn't expect the two to be friends. Although Bewitching hasn't been in the upper realm for long, he is quite popular, Jiang Wenyin said with a smile. Murong Jing nodded. With Bewitching's character, many people are willing to make friends with him. This is not strange. Perhaps it's because they're both of the dark attribute that they hit it off so well. Jiang Wenyin discovered that the relationship between Bewitching and Huang Futing was not ordinary. Logically speaking, the two of them did not have many opportunities to interact on a daily basis, so the possibility of this was very small. The only explanation was that the two of them had the same attributes, so they had a lot in common. Do you need me to introduce you? Bewitching looked at Jiang Wenyin and Murong Jing, then looked at Huang Futing. As far as he knew, Huang Futing was a rather famous figure in the upper realm. Perhaps he already knew Jiang Wenyin and Murong Jing. Hearing this, Huang Futing and Jiang Wenyin looked at each other and smiled. They said together, "No need. We've met before." Chapter 5796. As Bewitching's voice fell, the smiles on the three people's lips deepened. "It's been a long time, Brother Huangfu." Jiang Wenyin smiled. "After you left the Huangfu family, I haven't seen you for many years." Huang Futing smiled faintly. It had been so long, and he had already accepted it. "Although I didn't change my surname, I have nothing to do with the Huangfu family anymore." Jiang Wenyin nodded. "I understand. I'm very happy to meet the new you, Brother Huangfu." "I'm very happy too." Huang Futing glanced at Bewitching, and a sense of gratitude welled up in his heart. Ever since he left the Huangfu family, he had completely said goodbye to his previous identity. However, in everyone's eyes, he was just a joke. All these years, he had deliberately avoided people he knew in the past because he didn't want to see those mocking gazes. However, because of Bewitching's introduction just now, he and Jiang Wenyin were once again on equal footing. He hadn't felt this way for a long time. In the past, he didn't understand why Bewitching and Jiang Wenyin had only been in the upper realm for such a short time. Even if they had the support of the D family, it was strange that they could gain a foothold so quickly. However, after interacting with them, he completely understood that the current Bewitching was an existence he was willing to sacrifice his life for. To them, being on equal footing was more important than anything else. "What are you doing here?" Huang Futing also noticed the holes around Bewitching and the others and asked doubtfully. "You'll have to ask Bewitching about that," Murong Jing joked. Bewitching glanced helplessly at Jing and said, "According to the information we've gathered, there should be a blood spirit stone buried here, but we haven't found it after digging for a long time." Oh, Huang Futing was a little surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang handed over the blood spirit stone. This is a blood spirit stone. Any cultivator would be able to sense the power of this blood spirit stone just by sensing it. Such a treasure is buried underground? Huang Futing was surprised. If it was really like this, then this was a great opportunity. Originally, we were very confident, but now, we don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang looked around. She couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. Logically speaking, for this place to be so strange, there must be something special about it. Otherwise, it would be too strange. Why don't we give it a try as well? Huang Futing looked at the people behind him and asked. Following that, Di Beiqian and the others watched as Huang Futing's group began to dig around. However, the results were the same as theirs. After a short moment, Huang Futing and the others stopped as well, and they started to wonder exactly what was wrong with this matter. As the night deepened, everyone decided to stay here and rest for the night. Although the various situations in the ancient battlefield were a little strange, at least they didn't have to worry about any danger. Therefore, they could rest at ease at night. However, just as everyone was resting peacefully, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out. "Look, there seems to be something moving underground." As soon as he said that, everyone opened their eyes and looked at the ground. Chapter 5797. Suddenly, everyone became spirited. Judging from the range and volume of the fluctuation, it seemed to be similar to the blood spirit stone. Could it be that the thing moving now is the blood spirit stone? This thing has intelligence and can actually run? Bailey Yinshe revealed a look of surprise. If that was really the case, then everything made sense. No matter how they dug during the day, they couldn't find it. It might be in a very deep place and would only appear on the surface at night. It's very possible. Let's take a look and find out. Di Beiqian stood up. This situation also piqued his interest, and he felt that it was very interesting. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also moved. This kind of strange scene was not usually seen, so they naturally wanted to see what was going on. Looking at the undulating ground in front of them, Bailey Hongzhuang pierced the ground with her sword and found that a blood spirit stone had appeared very close to it. Taking out the blood spirit stone, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile, "That's right, this undulating thing is the blood spirit stone." At the same time, everyone also took the blood spirit stones from the ground. I didn't expect this place to be so magical. The blood spirit stones can move at night. Jiang Wenyin had a look of amazement on his face. This kind of situation was simply unimaginable on a normal day. But now it was really happening. Di Beiqian, you really didn't lie to me. This is really a good place. Jing looked at the blood spirit stone in his hand, his face full of smiles. This kind of treasure was really helpful for cultivation. Judging from the undulating ground, the number of blood spirit stones here was also very shocking. Di Beiqian chuckled. Of course I wouldn't lie to you. Everyone should seize this opportunity. Hearing this, everyone smiled and responded. This was a good opportunity, and everyone hated that they couldn't grow more hands. Xiao Hei, Xiao Bai, and Xiao Xuanzi all moved together. They couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. For a moment, everyone was busy grabbing the blood spirit stones. During this process, everyone discovered that the blood spirit stones that were active on the surface were the easiest to grab. The other blood spirit stones that were less active were located further down and were more troublesome to grab. Thus, everyone prioritized picking the best ones. In the process, if they were not careful, they would bump into each other. Situations where their heads bumped into each other also happened from time to time, causing everyone to laugh. Regardless of whether it was the cultivators from the Murong clan or the mercenaries with the dark attribute, everyone sighed in their hearts. If it were any other ordinary person, they wouldn't even mention such an opportunity. But who wouldn't want to keep it for themselves when they encounter treasure? However, Di Beiqian and the others seemed to have never thought of this problem, and this point was deeply engraved in their hearts. When the first ray of sunlight appeared, everyone realized that the ground had stopped moving and returned to its original state. At this moment, everyone came to a realization. These spirit stones are really interesting. They only float around at night. Who knows where they have gone during the day? Huang Futing said with a smile. Everyone's harvest last night was not bad. It just so happens that we can rest during the day. Otherwise, if it was like this for the whole day, we would be exhausted to death, Bai Li Yanche said with a smile. Although it looked very simple, it was actually quite tiring after a whole night. Normally, everyone was not good at digging. After digging for a whole day, they really felt sore all over when they stood up. Chapter 5798. Fortunately, we didn't come to the ancient battlefield. Otherwise, we would have been frightened and not surprised at all. It would have been better to leave directly after cultivating outside. Hearing Jiang Wenyan's words, everyone nodded. They all had the same opinion on this point. Along the way, no one had gained anything. However, the blood spirit stone alone was enough to soothe everyone's gloominess. Huang Futing, let me tell you a piece of news. Junling's son has been possessed by an expert from the ancient battlefield. Di Beichun put away his joking expression and said seriously. Hearing this, Huang Futing was slightly stunned. Possessed? Yes, we saw it with our own eyes. Di Beichun nodded. We tried to dissuade him at that time, but he didn't believe us at all. Bai Li Yanche shrugged and spread his hands. There are still people alive on the ancient battlefield? Huang Futing found it hard to believe. He had seen the battlefield, and the scene was really bloody and terrifying. Such a tragic scene, such a terrifying, murderous aura. He had always thought that everyone was dead. He didn't expect to suddenly hear such news. This was even more shocking than Jun Lingxuan being possessed. Di Beichun nodded and said worriedly, in short, this may be a big problem. We have to be mentally prepared. Huang Futing also understood Di Beichun's meaning. Originally, he was very happy to know that Jun Lingxuan was dead. After all, the Jun family had always been enemies with the Di family. The death of the Jun family's young master was definitely good news to them. However, after being possessed, the problem left behind by this method of death was obviously not small. After we leave here, we will try our best to inform others of this news so that everyone can be mentally prepared. I understand. In the next 2 days, everyone collected blood spirit stones at night and rested during the day. During this process, they increasingly felt that this land was magical. It was clearly a scene of devastation at night, but everything returned to normal during the day, as if nothing had happened. Although it had only been 3 days, everyone's harvest was extremely rich. In addition to the blood spirit stones, everyone had another harvest, and that was that their movement speed had increased. Because they had to grab the blood spirit stones as soon as they saw them, everyone moved as fast as they could. If they were even a little slower, they would miss this opportunity. In 3 days, everyone had practiced the ability to see and move quickly. At least, their speed was much faster than usual. Just when everyone thought that this could continue, the appearance of 2 teams broke the original silence. When everyone saw the Nangong family's teams slowly pass by, they felt very uneasy. Di Beichun? Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Beichun not far away, his eyebrows slightly raised, his eyes filled with a trace of surprise. Long time no see, Nangong Yuqing. Listening to the other party's understatement, Nangong Yuqing couldn't help but think back to the time when he brought Nangong Xiaolong to apologize. It was a stain that he would never forget for a long time. Thinking of this, Nangong Yuqing's expression changed slightly. I didn't expect you to be so lucky. It seems that you are surprised that we are still alive. Di Beichun smiled. Chapter 5799. Listening to Nangong Yuqing's impolite words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were too lazy to pay attention to him. In any case, there was nothing good between the two sides. However, from Nangong Yuqing's calm expression, they could see that what he said was true. He had indeed guessed that they were still alive. I heard that Jun Lingxuan disappeared with you. Since you are here, does that mean that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So are already dead? Nangong Yuqing looked at Di Beichen. There was a great hatred between him and Di Beichen. Moreover, because of Nangong Xiaolong, he had lost face in front of Di Beichen. However, since Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan got engaged, the hatred between him and Di Beichen was not so deep. If it weren't for Xiao Sou, he wouldn't have offended Di Beichen. Now that Xiao Sou had completely rejected him, why should he still be obsessed with these things? Of course, he still didn't like him, but he wasn't as angry as before. Xiao Sou doesn't know, but Jun Lingxuan is indeed dead. Di Beichen said frankly. Oh, Nangong Yuqing chuckled. You are really calm. Aren't you afraid that I will spread the news and the Jun family will come to make trouble for you? Before Jun Lingxuan died, the conflict between me and his family never stopped. Besides, I wasn't the one who killed him. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Nangong Yuqing was slightly surprised. If you didn't kill him, who else could it be? You can only blame Jun Lingxuan for being greedy. He didn't listen to our advice and insisted on taking the storage ring, Jiang Wenyan added. Nangong Yuqing glanced at Jiang Wenyan. Ever since the last time he met Jiang Wenyan in the Piercing Wind City, he knew that Jiang Wenyan had become very close to Di Beichen and the others. As for the news of Jiang Wenyan, Di Beichen, and the others disappearing at the bottom of the lake, he had also heard about it. Most importantly, he had encountered the Jiang family's team not long ago. It seemed that everyone was extremely saddened by the news of their young master's death. Of course, he also understood why Jiang Wenyan stood out at this time. He wanted to prove that everything Di Beichen said was true. What does the storage ring have to do with his death? Nangong Yuqing was somewhat puzzled. He had also seen a storage ring during the battle, but as soon as he approached it, he was deterred by the terrifying aura it exuded and didn't dare try to take it. He believed that Jun Lingxuan was not a fool. After feeling such a terrifying aura, wouldn't he be courting death if he still tried to take it? That storage ring is different from the storage rings you have seen before. There's a soul inside. Jun Lingxuan's body has been possessed. Even though Di Beichen didn't have a good impression of Nangong Yuqing, he didn't intend to hide this matter. No one knew what Qing Devil would do with Jun Lingxuan's body. It was better to say it early so that everyone would be prepared. Nangong Yuqing's reaction was the same as Murong Jing and Huang Futing's. His face was filled with disbelief at first, but after noticing the seriousness on Nangong Yuqing's face, he understood that it was not a joke. Jun Lingxuan is too pitiful. He was actually possessed? Chapter 5800. If all of this is true, then you're really lucky. The other party didn't kill you as well? Nangong Yuqing raised his eyebrows. To be able to possess Jun Lingxuan's body, it was clear that the other party was much stronger than Jun Lingxuan. It was even possible that the other party was the soul of a powerhouse from the ancient battlefield. In the face of such a powerhouse, Di Beichen and the others shouldn't have been able to fight back. It was too strange that they were able to escape. Hearing Nangong Yuqing's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were surprised. It seemed that Nangong Yuqing wasn't a brainless person. However, they didn't care whether Nangong Yuqing believed them or not, so they didn't intend to explain. The only reason they warned them was because they were cultivators from the upper realm. As for what the other party would do, it had nothing to do with them. Nangong Yuqing was waiting for Di Beichen's explanation, but when he saw that Di Beichen and the others didn't seem to have anything to say, he felt a burst of depression. Come on. Can't you explain everything? It's so depressing to only explain half of it. Of course, he wouldn't admit it. The cultivators from a Nangong family looked at each other in dismay. This news was too sudden. Up until now, they had never seen a cultivator being possessed. For a moment, they were looking forward to seeing Jun Lingxuan. If he was really possessed, they didn't know what would happen. After seeing that Di Beichen and the others didn't intend to pay attention to him, Nangong Yuqing licked his lips and suddenly said, "What are you doing here? We're tired from walking. Can't we rest here for a while?" Bailey Hongzhuang coldly said. Nangong Yuqing looked at the scorching sun above his head and suspiciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. He didn't know why, but he felt that this reason was a bit far-fetched. Under the scorching sun, even he felt extremely hot. If he really wanted to rest, he would have found a place with trees to sit and rest. Why would he stay here? When Murong Jing and the others noticed the suspicion in Nangong Yuqing's eyes, their hearts skipped a beat. It wasn't easy for them to discover the secret of this place, but they didn't want to share it with Nangong Yuqing. This guy really likes to be suspicious. Bali Yin Che rolled his eyes. We just happened to run into other people here, so we chatted for a while. With that, Bali Yin Che said, "Let's go. It's quite hot here." Everyone naturally understood what Bali Yin Che meant. They nodded and turned to walk forward. Seeing the other party turn around and leave without looking back, Nangong Yuqing's expression became even more awkward. Was he really thinking too much? However, just as everyone was about to turn around and leave, they suddenly heard other movements coming from behind. "Brother Huangfu, long time no see." Nangong Yuqing smiled as he looked at the group behind him. His voice was filled with friendliness and joy. As soon as his voice fell, Huangfu Ting's body stiffened and he stopped in his tracks. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also looked at Huangfu Ting. Could it really be such a coincidence? Jiang Wenyan and Murong Jing turned around to look. As expected, the Huangfu clan's group appeared not far behind them. Chapter 58:01. "That's right, it's them," Jiang Wenyan replied. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. She really didn't want to see anyone, but they just had to appear. From Huangfu Ting's point of view, it was obvious that he didn't want to see anyone from the Huangfu clan. They had been so cruel to him, without the slightest bit of kinship or concern. In addition, he wasn't living a glorious life, so he naturally didn't want to see them. The darkness attribute cultivators all looked at Huangfu Ting worriedly. No matter how carefree he usually appeared, they all knew that things weren't as simple as they seemed on the surface. Just like themselves, they also felt the same way about their former family members. However, they were better off than Huangfu Ting. Huangfu Ting was the one who had truly fallen from the heavens to such a state. Although there was a huge psychological gap between them, they definitely couldn't compare to Huangfu Ting. "Brother Nangong, it's indeed been a long time. Being able to meet this time proves that we're fated." The young leader of the Nangong clan smiled as he looked at Nangong Yuqing. From his amiable attitude, it was obvious that the two of them had a good relationship. "It's been a few years since we last met. I originally thought that you would also appear in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, but I didn't expect to not see you." Huangfu Gang smiled faintly. "Previously, I was tied up with other matters, so I didn't have time to go to the Immortal Cloud secret realm. In fact, I've always regretted it." "You're too modest. Do you think I don't know you? The Huangfu clan is so powerful, and your experience is not something we can compare to." Nangong Yuqing smiled. "Bewitching, let's go." Huangfu Ting, who had been silent all this time, spoke up. Just by hearing the familiar voice, he already knew who it was. However, he really didn't want to face the other party right now. Bewitching nodded. "All right." With tacit understanding, everyone quickened their pace. However, just as they were about to leave, a voice rang out from behind them. "Big brother, is it you?" Huangfu Ting moved even faster, and the other party rushed out of the Huangfu clan's group without any hesitation and quickly caught up to Huangfu Ting. After seeing the familiar face, the man's face was filled with indescribable excitement. He grabbed Huangfu Ting's arm tightly. "Big brother, it's really you. Great, I've finally found you." Looking at the familiar face in front of him, Huangfu Chen couldn't control his emotions. Huangfu Ting fell into silence as he faced the other party's sincere gaze. "Fourth brother, he is no longer a member of our Huangfu clan. How can you still call him Big Brother?" Huangfu Gang's displeased voice came from behind with a hint of reprimand and admonishment. "Come back quickly. Don't talk to this person who appeared out of nowhere." Huangfu Chen glared at Huangfu Gang. "Second brother, how can you be so cold-blooded? I don't care about that. He's my big brother. Even if he's chased out of the family, he's still the big brother I respect the most. This has never changed from the beginning to the end." "Fourth brother, you." Huangfu Gang became angrier and angrier at Huang Fu Chen's rude rebuke. Back then, this was a decision made by the clan. How would you violate the clan's rules? What do you mean by clan rules? My big brother has never done anything wrong. Those punishments are also groundless accusations. Chapter 58:02. Big Brother, you left the family without saying anything back then. I've been looking for you, but there was no news at all. I'm so happy now. I wasn't interested in this ancient battlefield, but I didn't expect to see you here. Everything was worth it. Fourth brother, I'm no longer a member of the Huangfu family. Just forget about me and pretend that you never had a big brother like me. Huangfu Ting's eyes dimmed. He had always understood how important he was in Huangfu Chen's heart. Even though the entire family was extremely disappointed that he had awakened the dark force, Huangfu Chen had never cared about this from the beginning to the end. Over the years, he had long become indifferent to the Huangfu family and even subconsciously erased his former identity. However, Huangfu Chen had always been a person in the depths of his memory. At least he had a younger brother who had never betrayed him. Whenever he felt despair because he could not see the light of day, he would always think of this sunny face in front of him. That was his spiritual pillar to persevere because he hoped that one day he could reunite with the family he recognized. Now that he was cultivating with Bewitching and knew that he was going to establish the Dark Sacred Assembly, it was an unprecedented hope. He hoped that one day he could stand in front of the Huangfu family and let them understand that there was no problem with the Dark Force. He could also become an outstanding cultivator. Big brother, don't talk nonsense. Huangfu Chen was a little anxious. I know everyone's attitude towards you is very bad, but that's them. In my heart, you've always been that outstanding big brother. Fourth brother, don't be silly. Huangfu Gang walked over. Do you think he's still the dazzling, peerless genius from back then? Feel his aura. His current cultivation is still inferior to yours. A dark attribute cultivator is destined to be abandoned by the upper realm. If you still want to be his follower like back then, you're courting death. Huangfu Gang's every word stabbed Huangfu Ting's heart like a sharp blade. The humiliating and sullen scene from back then seemed to appear before his eyes again. No one knew what kind of disdain and discrimination he had endured back then. Wasn't the arrogant Huangfu Gang in front of him like a follower back then? The affairs of the world were just so unpredictable, making people sigh with emotion. Huangfu Gang, I respect you as my second brother, but don't go too far with your words. Huangfu Chen glared at him. If Big Brother hadn't awakened the darkness attribute, would you have your current position? Don't forget, you couldn't compare to my big brother back then. Bang! Huangfu Gang unceremoniously punched Huangfu Chen in the face. Wake up and figure out who you're talking to. You. Huangfu Chen was furious. Just as he was about to explode, Huangfu Ting stood in front of him and looked at Huangfu Gang calmly. Fourth brother is still young and doesn't know any better. You don't have to be so calculative with him. Huangfu Gang chuckled. Huangfu Ting, you're no longer a member of the Huangfu clan. Don't flatter yourself. Why do you have to call him fourth brother? Sensing Huangfu Gang's arrogant attitude, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others frowned. Chapter 58:03. Huangfu Ting was once the next patriarch of the Huangfu family. As the second young master of the Huangfu family, Huangfu Gang had always been shrouded in the halo of Huangfu Ting. It was not until Huangfu Ting left the family that he took over Huangfu Ting's previous position and became the current young master. Murong Jing knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichan had just arrived in the upper realm and did not know much about the Huangfu family, so he took the initiative to introduce them. After hearing this introduction, Bailey Hongzhuang completely understood. It turned out that there was hatred between the two of them, so at this moment they were speaking so impolitely. Even though there were many things that she did not know, she could guess from Huangfu Gang's appearance at this moment that he was shrouded in the halo of Huangfu Ting, how depressed and jealous he was. Even though he had everything now, he was still unwilling to let go. Just when everyone thought that Huangfu Ting could not help but lose his temper, he remained calm and did not even show any anger on his face. That's right, I was wrong. I'll leave now, okay? Even though Huang Futing was very tolerant, the jealousy in Huang Fu Gang's eyes did not dissipate. You've disappeared for so many years. I thought you had died long ago. Now it seems that you've been able to live until now because of your ability to be a coward. TSK, it's really interesting. At the same time, the cultivators of the Huangfu family could not help but chuckle. Feeling the strange gazes of everyone, Huang Futing could not help but clench his hands. He deliberately tolerated it not because he was afraid of Huang Fu Gang, but because he did not want to implicate Di Beichun because of his own affairs. He understood that Di Beichun was a very loyal person. If he had a conflict with Di Beichun now, he would definitely not sit idly by. However, he did not want Di Beichun to make an enemy of the Huangfu family. He was very grateful to Di Beichun because he had brought him endless hope. Everyone looked at Huang Futing, who was so tolerant. It was hard to imagine that such an arrogant person could be like this now. It inexplicably made them feel a little distressed. How glorious were you back then? No one was in your eyes. Now, you actually appeared here with a group of mercenaries. If it weren't for the mercenary guild discovering the ancient battlefield first, I'm afraid you wouldn't even have the chance to experience it. You're really down and out. Huang Fu Gang sized up Huang Futing and the cultivators behind Huang Futing, and his eyes were filled with disdain. I don't think you're that great. If it wasn't for Huang Futing's awakening dark attribute, you would be nothing in the Huangfu family now. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up, her cold eyes filled with disgust. You're the one who took advantage of him when he left. You should at least express some gratitude. Now that you're so aggressive, are you trying to prove that you're stronger than him? Linger sneered. Why didn't I see you so arrogant when I was in the Huangfu family? You're really a villain intoxicated by success. The sudden sarcasm stunned Huang Fu Gang. After noticing that there were two peerless beauties standing up for Huang Futing, he was a little shocked. Oh, I really didn't know that you were quite popular with women. Are they also from the mercenary guild? Huang Fu Gang asked. Chapter 5804. After listening to Nan Gong Yuqing's introduction, Huang Fu Gang looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a different expression. No wonder he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang looked familiar, but he had never seen such a beauty before. Only now did he remember that he had seen a portrait of the Saint of Light. He never thought that the real person would appear in front of him. The Saint of Light? Huang Fuchun was pleasantly surprised. Although he had never seen the Saint of Light before, he had heard many rumors about her. In a short time after coming to the upper realm, she had already gained a firm foothold, and no one could compare to her in terms of the light attribute. Such a legendary woman had appeared in front of him and was even speaking up for his brother. He felt that his brother's life was not as miserable as Huang Fu Gang had described. Huang Fu Gang's eyes flickered with a bit of embarrassment, but his attitude was no longer as unscrupulous as before. No matter who it was, they had to be wary of the power of the Holy Assembly. Saint of Light, I didn't know your identity and was a bit rude. I hope you can forgive me. Huang Fu Gang cupped his hands apologetically. If Bailey Hongzhuang had not seen Huang Fu Gang's face before, she might not have taken his words to heart. But now that she knew what kind of person Huang Fu Gang was, she could only say those words out of consideration for his feelings. Huang Fu Ting was her friend. No matter what his identity was, she could not accept that Huang Fu Gang had bullied his friend. Moreover, it was impossible for such people to become friends. You don't have to be so courteous now. After all, we are already on opposing sides. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Huang Fu Gang indifferently. Her hostile attitude was particularly obvious. Huang Fu Gang frowned. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would not give him any face. No matter what, he was the young master of the Huangfu family. On the contrary, Huang Fu Ting was just a has-been. She actually chose to stand on Huang Fu Ting's side. I have long heard that the Huangfu family is a great family, but looking at you now, I feel that the Huangfu family is just a facade. Di Beichun looked coldly at Huang Fu Gang. Ever since this guy appeared, he had been very unhappy. You don't have the slightest bit of affection for your own big brother. You're so overbearing and even mocking him. If you were heartless back then because of the power of darkness, I think it would be difficult for you to even leave the Huangfu family alive. As soon as he said this, everyone could not help but laugh. Bewitching was still as sharp-tongued as ever. He did not give the other party any face. Huangfu Gang's face was full of haze. Bewitching, right? This is our family's business of the Huangfu family. You have no right to interfere. Didn't you just say that Huangfu Ting has nothing to do with your family? How can you say it's a family matter now? Bewitching asked. Huangfu Gang was stunned. His face turned awkward as he said angrily, "In short, this is our business. It's none of your business." "Then you are wrong." Bewitching shook his head and put a hand on Huangfu Ting's shoulder. "He is my friend. His business is my business. If you provoke him, it is the same as provoking me." Huangfu Ting's body stiffened slightly. A warm current flowed through his heart. Whether it was Bailey Hongzhuang who stood out first, or Bewitching who now regarded him as a brother, they both made him feel extremely warm. Chapter 58:05. Huangfu Gang looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief, thinking that Bewitching and the Holy Maiden had gone crazy. Anyone who wasn't a fool wouldn't choose to stand on Huangfu Ting's side at this time. On one side was the young master of the Huangfu family, and on the other side was a dark attribute cultivator with no future. However, these two people chose Huangfu Ting without hesitation. Were they crazy? Nangong Yuqing could understand Huangfu Gang's thoughts at this moment. If this happened to someone else, he would find it strange, but when it happened to Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang, he didn't find it strange at all. These two people had always acted like this, even when they chose to help Ao Lingxiao. However, the end result proved that they were right, and Ao Lingxiao was wrongly accused. Madmen. These people were madmen to begin with. In the past, it was only them, but now, even Murong Jing and Jiang Wenyan had become part of it. Huangfu Ting, I didn't see how capable you were. Huangfu Gang's eyes were cold. I don't know what's so good about you. Apart from Huangfu Chun and that slut, you've also attached yourself to the Radiant Sacred Assembly and the young master of the D family. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are the holy maiden of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, yet you're protecting a dark attribute cultivator. Aren't you afraid that the Radiant Sacred Assembly will punish you? Huangfu Gang's eyes shone as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Others were fine, but light and darkness were irreconcilable. As the holy maiden of light, she actually dared to collude with a dark attribute cultivator. Wasn't she just seeking her own death? You don't have to worry about that. I know what I'm doing very well. Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was unrestrained, still as calm as before. I think you've been in seclusion for too long, so you don't know much about the outside world. So what if I'm the holy maiden of the Radiant Sacred Assembly? My husband is a dark attribute cultivator. Do you think I'll be afraid? What? Huangfu Gang couldn't help but raise his voice, his startled eyes wandering between Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang. Then he suddenly said, I was wondering why you were with Huangfu Ting. So you're both of the dark attribute. Huangfu Gang, how is Wanner now? Huangfu Ting, who had remained calm all this time, suddenly became agitated. He quickly walked forward and rushed before Huangfu Gang. His pitch-black eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the latter, as if he was suppressing his endless emotions. You mean that bitch? Huangfu Gang raised his eyebrows. Huangfu Gang didn't expect that Huangfu Ting, who had been enduring silently, would dare to attack him at this moment. He couldn't dodge in time and took a solid punch. Huangfu Gang took 2 steps back. His resolute face seemed to be set ablaze, and his eyes turned red. Chapter 58:06. Even if Huangfu Ting wasn't Huangfu Gang's match, this kind of power wouldn't take his life. It would only cause physical pain. Although everyone didn't like Huangfu Gang's smug look, it seemed that the grudge between the two wasn't simple. There was even a woman involved. From Huangfu Gang's roar, everyone understood that the woman was the most important reason for the grudge between the two. The two brothers fell in love with the same woman, but that woman loved Huangfu Ting. It was originally an excellent arrangement, but fate made a fool of her, and she married Huangfu Gang. Perhaps this was the helplessness of a big family. Facing Huangfu Gang's fist, Huangfu Ting didn't retaliate. The fist smashed on the face. It was very painful, but it couldn't compare to the pain in his heart. When he left the family, the most painful thing was this. Even if Wan begged him to take her away, he couldn't do that. He didn't even have a future for himself, let alone a future for Wan. Even now, he didn't feel that his decision was wrong. He knew very well how he had come through all these years. If it wasn't for the unyielding belief supporting him, he might have really disappeared from this world long ago. However, when he heard the news about Wan, he was still so heartbroken. Once, they were innocent. Wan had always believed in him and worshipped him. It was already very close to their wedding date, but at that time, his talent awakened. When Huangfu Ting's face was covered in blood, Huangfu Gang finally stopped. Look at yourself now. Do you still have the high spirits from back then? Huangfu Gang's face was expressionless. Instead of living like this, I might as well just die. Huangfu Ting didn't speak. He struggled to get up from the ground. His eyes were dim, but the determination in his eyes never wavered. After venting, Huangfu Gang didn't seem to be willing to say anything more. Facing the gazes of Bewitching and the others, his expression changed slightly. He didn't expect himself to be unable to control his emotions at this time. Let's go. Huangfu Gang waved his hand and led the cultivators of the Huangfu family forward. They're leaving just like that? I thought there would be a big fight. Xiaohei shook her feet and said as if the world wasn't in chaos. Huangfu Chun did not leave with them. Instead, he stood firmly beside Huangfu Ting. Big brother, just let me go with you. Ever since you left, there's no point in me staying in the family. Everyone follows second brother, but I don't like him, Huangfu Chun said gloomily. A trace of a smile appeared on the corners of Huangfu Ting's mouth. Don't be silly. Look at me now. Could it be that you want to fall into such a state as well? Your cultivation talent has always been very good. Only in the clan can you receive the best training. Is it really that important to have a high cultivation base? I think living happily is the most important thing. Huangfu Chen's expression was firm. Big brother, you still don't understand that strength and the future are not the most important thing. I know you left for Sister Wan-Er's sake, but do you know? Ever since you left, I haven't seen Sister Wan-Er smile. Second brother treats her well, but I know that she's not happy at all, let alone happy. Huangfu Chen's words caused Huangfu Ting's heart to tremble. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Was he wrong? Chapter 5807. Faced with Huangfu Chen's question, Di Beichun and the others fell silent. From Huangfu Ting's point of view, they felt that he was right, but from Miss Wan-Er's point of view, perhaps this was the decision she didn't want to see the most. Big brother, I've respected and worshipped you since I was young. Even after you left the clan for so many years, my thoughts have never changed. I feel that a man shouldn't make a woman sad. If you can't even do this, then don't call yourself a man. Huangfu Chen's words were fierce, and his emotions were even more agitated. He had searched for Huangfu Ting for so long and finally met him. This time, he had to try his best to persuade him. Otherwise, if he missed this opportunity, he didn't know when they would meet again in the future. Huangfu Ting remained silent. Huangfu Chen's words had given him too much shock, including what Huangfu Gang had said earlier. All of this reminded him of the past. Seeing this, Huangfu Chun couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although it was the first time they had met, he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang would help Huangfu Ting. Miss Bailey, you're a woman. I believe you understand a woman's thoughts the best. If you were Sister Wan-Er, what would you choose? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect Huangfu Chun to turn the question to her in the blink of an eye. For a moment, even Huangfu Ting looked at her. After a while, Bailey Hongzhuang said, I don't know about your situation in the past, but for a woman, nothing else is more important than being with the person she loves. There were many types of women in the world. Some valued the future more, some valued relationships more, but none of them were wrong. She had never met Miss Wan and didn't know her true thoughts. However, judging for what Huang Fuqin said, Miss Wan should be deeply in love with Huang Futing. Even though Huang Futing had left the clan for so long, her thoughts hadn't changed. This proved that she valued her relationship with Huang Futing more. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Huang Futing's body trembled, and his gaze became even more complicated. Even if he didn't say anything, everyone could feel the sadness that came from his heart. It was a type of pain and sorrow that spread from the bottom of his heart and went deep into his bones. It was even to the extent that it was impossible to express with words. It carried boundless regret, yet he was powerless to do anything about it. Huang Fuchun tugged a Huang Futing's shirt. "Big brother, did you hear that?" Huang Futing raised his head, his eyes sparkling. "Fourth brother, she's already married." Hearing this, Huang Fuchun was startled and could not help but loosen his grip. "That's right. Even if Sister Wan-er's heart hasn't changed, she is still married. Big brother, you know that it's just a marriage alliance. It's a marriage alliance that has no other choice." But in the end, they got married. Huang Futing lowered his eyes. His entire being was in desolation. Everything that had happened in the past could no longer be rewritten. Even if he knew what Wan-er was thinking, it was too late. Everyone fell into silence. This situation was indeed very difficult to resolve. Even if they were not married, as long as Miss Wan-er was willing to elope with Huang Futing, they could still be together. However, if they eloped under such circumstances, they would really have to bear a bad reputation and not be able to face anyone. Chapter 58:08. Bailey Hongzhuang and Linger looked at each other. They knew too well that as a woman, it would be unbearable for her to bear such infamy. "Master, I'm afraid this matter is uncertain." Xiaohei sighed. Although she often wished for the world to be in chaos, in this kind of matter, she hoped to see the lovers get married. She originally thought that it was still very possible for Huang Futing and Miss Wan-er to be together. After all, in her opinion, dark attribute cultivators had a very bright future. Even if the cultivators in the upper realm had not accepted them yet, she believed that it was only a matter of time. After the Dark Sacred Assembly was established, everyone's opinion would gradually change. As long as Huang Futing was no longer in a state of being looked down upon, with his ability, he could give Miss Wan-er a very good future. However, just getting married was already an insurmountable chasm. Even if their hearts were together, it was impossible for them to be together all the time. Huang Fuchun fell into silence. He was thinking that if he saw his big brother, he and Sister Wan-er would leave with him. To him, the family did not make him reluctant to leave. In fact, in the past, he was also full of a sense of belonging to the family. However, when he saw how cruelly the family treated his big brother, he felt that everything seemed to be a little different from his judgment. In such a heartless family, there was no point in staying any longer. On the contrary, it was not necessarily impossible to go out and explore. He did not care about anything else. He just followed his heart. It was not until this moment that he realized that he had thought too simply. It turned out that everything was different from before. Even if he wanted to leave, it would not be so easy. "Fourth brother, if you still don't come, then you can stay by yourself." Huang Fugang's voice came from the front. Huang Fuchun subconsciously looked forward, and a trace of hesitation flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He took out something from his storage ring. "Big brother, Sister Wan said that if I see you, I must give this to you." "What is this?" Huang Futing looked at the brocade pouch in his hand in confusion. Huang Fuchun shook his head. "I don't know. Sister Wan said that before I see you, she won't let me open it. Only you can see it." Huang Futing didn't hesitate to open the pouch right away. He hadn't seen Wan for a long time. Before he left, he didn't even take their keepsake. No matter what it was, staying by his side was just a thought. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others did not pay too much attention to it. They guessed that it was a letter from Wan'er to Huang Futing. After leaving, he had never seen her again. His longing for her should have been recorded in this letter. However, when he saw the contents of the paper, he suddenly took 2 steps back. His emotions became agitated in an instant, and tears flowed out of his eyes. Everyone couldn't help but be stunned as they looked at Huang Futing, who'd suddenly had a great change in mood, and they looked at each other. They were completely unable to understand exactly what was written on this piece of paper to cause him to have such a breakdown. Could it be that what was written on it was not her longing and worry for him, but a heartless letter? Chapter 58:09. Huang Futing didn't answer. He slowly squatted down and ran his hands through his hair. His eyes were already filled with tears. The gentle and kind girl from back then kept appearing in his mind. He had seen her often since he was very young. Because their families were friends, they had cultivated together since they were young and experienced together. At first, they didn't understand the feelings between men and women, but later on, they developed feelings for each other. Everything was so natural. Perhaps their feelings for each other had not experienced any great storms, but in their eyes, this kind of long-term relationship was more sincere. When he chose to leave, he was very pained. Even when Wan'er cried and begged him to take her away, he didn't agree. He thought that after a long time, Wan'er would gradually forget about him. But now it seemed that he thought too simply. Wan'er was never a fickle girl. Most importantly, he never thought that Wan'er would do this for him. Big brother, what did Sister Wan'er give you? Huang Fuchun was puzzled. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't figure out what could make Huang Futing fall into such emotions. He took the paper from Huang Futing's hand, but when he saw the 2 bright red words at the top, he was stunned on the spot. His face was full of shock. A letter of divorce. Those 2 big words were clearly a letter of divorce. It's a letter of divorce. How is this possible? Although he knew that Sister Wan'er had always been thinking about his big brother, he also understood his second brother's feeling for Sister Wan'er. Logically speaking, it was absolutely impossible for his second brother to write a letter of divorce. As soon as Huang Fuchun finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood what was going on. Heavens, it's a letter of divorce. Xiao He was stunned. So this means that Miss Wan'er has already made up her mind to leave with Huang Futing. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. She was inexplicably shocked and touched. It seems that Miss Wan'er really has deep feelings for him. In order to be with him, she has already prepared everything. Bali Yin Che frowned slightly. Isn't it said that Huang Fugang likes Wan'er very much? Why would he write a letter of divorce? Sometimes, it's even more painful to have her as a person, but not her heart. Jiang Wenyin sighed emotionally. When Huang Fugang made an appearance earlier, Qin kept feeling that Huang Fugang was too overbearing, petty. However, he now understood why Huang Fugang treated Huang Futing like that. Perhaps it wasn't because of his darkness attribute, nor was it because Huang Fugang couldn't compare to Huang Futing back then and wanted to show off in front of him. The real reason was that the person he loved had fallen in love with Huang Futing. Especially when he saw that Huang Futing could not compare to him at all, yet he was still able to capture the heart of the person he loved. This kind of pain might not be any lighter than what Huang Futing had endured all these years. It was torture in the heart. Big brother, this is indeed second brother's handwriting. Huang Fuchun looked at the divorce letter carefully and turned to look at Huang Futing. Chapter 58:10. Huang Futing nodded slightly. He had recognized Huang Fugang's handwriting when he saw the words divorce letter. In fact, he had seen how much Huang Fugang liked Wan'er back then. He had always been willing to give up many things to Huang Fugang, but he could not give up on Wan'er. Suddenly, he understood why Huang Fugang had beaten him so fiercely. Perhaps it was because of the unwillingness in his heart, or perhaps it was because of his current miserable state. Big brother, Sister Wan'er gave you this divorce letter. Does that mean you two can be together? Meng Sheng asked. All of their helplessness and despair had been resolved with this divorce letter. In fact, he knew very well that although Sister One had married his second brother, she had always lived alone in a place. Normally, she would be in closed-door cultivation. She almost never had the chance to see his second brother. They were just husband and wife in name. Huang Futing fell into hesitation. In this situation, he did not know what would happen if Wan Er followed him. Most importantly, if Wan Er's family knew what she was doing, they would definitely be furious. Not only Wan Er, but even Huang Fu Gang might be severely punished for writing such a divorce letter. After seeing Huang Futing hesitate, Bewitching suddenly said, Huang Futing, since Miss Wan Er is prepared to abandon everything as a man, could it be that you are not as courageous as a woman? That's right. You are a dignified man. She has done so much for you. If you still betray her, then don't blame me for looking down on you. Murong Jing could not help but speak up. He still remembered the first time he saw Huang Futing. He was so high-spirited. Even if he stood in front of a group of outstanding cultivators, he was still a person who could not be ignored. However, the current him was far too different from before. Although he understood that it had not been easy for him all these years, as a man, he should bear the responsibility that he should bear. If it was him, if a woman was willing to do this for him, then even if he had to give up his life, he would definitely take her far away. You have to be brave. Only when she is with you will she feel happy. Bailey Hongzhuang also spoke up. She had yet to meet this Miss Wan Er, but her heart was already filled with deep admiration. So far, she had never seen a girl who dared to love and hate like this. Even if she had to bear the infamy of the world, even if she had to abandon her family, she was still willing. She understood that this was definitely not the result of a moment of impulse. Huang Futing had left the family for so many years. In these years, Wan Er had probably thought of all the consequences thousands of times. She must have spent a lot of effort just to get this divorce letter. After so many years, she didn't even know if Huang Futing was still alive, but she still did all of this. What an admirable woman she was. Huang Futing raised his head and looked at the crowd in front of him. Although everyone's words were not very polite, he knew in his heart that everyone was cheering for him. Everyone was supporting him. At this moment, he had also erased his cowardly self from his heart. He could no longer hide like a coward. He had to face it bravely. Chapter 58:11. Everyone watched as Huang Futing stood up, his dark eyes fixed on everyone. His eyes were overflowing with brilliance, blooming with an unprecedented, dazzling light. A warm smile bloomed on his heroic face. He suddenly turned around, his voice firm and serious. Fourth brother, do me a favor. Big brother, tell me. Huang Fuchen nodded hurriedly. He seemed to have guessed what Huang Futing was going to say next, and the corners of his lips had already risen quietly. When you go back, find a way to take Wan Er away. I will wait for you in Emperor Cloud City. Okay. Huang Fuchen solemnly agreed, his bright eyes shining like unpolished jade. Big brother, don't worry. I will definitely bring Sister Wan Er to you. When the time comes, you can't drive me away. Huang Futing laughed heartily, the haze in his eyes completely dispersing. Wan Er's actions had brought him endless strength. In the past, he had no future, but now he saw hope. Even if he was abandoned by his family, so what? He would stand up again. He would become the dazzling Huang Futing of the past. Since the family didn't give them a way out, he would create a bright path for Wan Er himself. Don't worry, as long as you are willing to stay, I will never drive you away. Looking at the bright Huang Futing, Huang Fuchen only felt that his old big brother had returned. Good. Huang Fuchen couldn't hide his joy. When we leave the ancient battlefield, I will quickly go to Emperor Cloud City. Hurry up and catch up with the team now. Huang Futing chuckled. Okay. Huang Fuchen nodded and was about to leave when Huang Futing suddenly placed a Qinquan bag in his hand. This thing is helpful for cultivation. Take it with you. Big brother, you need cultivation resources more than me. Somewhere in his heart trembled deeply. Huang Fuchen's voice suddenly became hoarse. His big brother had always treated him like this, always thinking of him when he had good things. Until now, this hadn't changed. Don't worry about me. I'm fine now. Huang Futing subconsciously looked at Di Beichen. It was this excellent man in front of him who brought hope to the dark cultivators. Take it. Huang Fuchun looked at the Chinquan bag in his hand, then looked deeply at Huang Futing. His smile was as bright as the sun. Big brother, thank you. In the next moment, Huang Fuchun turned around swiftly. His steps were light and quick because he could finally put down the stone that had been weighing on his heart for many years. Thank you, Huang Futing said as he looked at everyone. In the past, he had never had the courage to take this step, but everyone's words had completely awakened him. Murong Jing placed a hand on Huang Futing's shoulder. Huang Futing, actually, I'm quite envious of you. It's rare for a woman to be so sincere to you. You must not let her down. Huang Futing nodded. I understand. I've let her down in the past, but I won't do it again. That's good. Smiles appeared on everyone's faces. Seeing such a result, everyone felt sincerely happy. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think of Huang Fu Gang's angry scene from before. It must have been very painful all these years. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Beichen. Her gentle voice carried a sigh. Beichen, my opinion of Huang Fu Gang has suddenly changed. Did he think it through long ago and let go? Chapter 58:12. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was like a flower as she nodded. Me too. She understood that Huang Fu Gang was not as heartless as they had thought. He definitely loved Wan deeply, but he was unwilling and angry to deal with Huang Futing, but there was no hatred. Otherwise, if he was really narrow-minded, he would rather kill Huang Futing than give the two of them a chance to be together. That outburst just now was him putting an end to everything that had happened in the past. After Nangong Yuqing left with Huang Fu Gang's group, he felt that something was wrong. He felt that there must be a reason why Di Beichen's group stayed there. He wanted to stay and find out what was going on, but he just inexplicably left with the Huang Fu family. He had been in the ancient battlefield for so long, but he hadn't gained anything. According to his understanding, Di Beichen's group was very lucky. If they had gained something, wouldn't it be a pity to miss it? Just as he was thinking about how to tell Huang Fu Gang about this, Huang Fu Chen's figure suddenly caught up from behind. Huang Fu Gang felt the footsteps and turned his head to look, but he didn't say anything. Brother Huang Fu, don't you think it's strange that Di Beichen's group gathered there? Nangong Yuqing lowered his voice. I think there might be something we don't know. We've been in the ancient battlefield for so long, but besides the pavilion at the center of the lake, we haven't gained anything. It's strange that Di Beichen's group seems to be very lucky. Look, the inheritance of the pavilion at the center of the lake fell into the hands of their friends. At this moment, Han Bowen led the disciples of the Blue Cloud sect and arrived nearby. When he heard the name Di Beichen, his eyes lit up. As far as he knew, Jiang Wenyin and Bailey Hongzhuang had already met up with Di Beichen. Although everyone said that they had died in the lake, in his opinion, as long as he didn't see their corpses, they might still be alive. Although he was forced to give up, he was still thinking about the treasure. Brother Nangong. Han Bowen greeted him with a smile. After Nangong Yuqing noticed Han Bowen and the others, his expression also changed. His calm face revealed a bit of caution and vigilance. Brother Han, it's rare to see you take the initiative to greet me. Brother Nangong, it's been so long since that incident. There's really no need to take it to heart. What do you think? Han Bowen had a smile on his face. Back then, we were all young and immature. Moreover, it's inevitable to have some small conflicts during training. Nangong Yuqing narrowed his eyes, a trace of haze flashing through his black pupils. They had a conflict in the early years, so he didn't have a good impression of him. Now that this fellow had taken the initiative to make peace, he must have some purpose. Otherwise, with this fellow's character, it was impossible for him to take the initiative to put down his face. What you said makes sense. Nangong Yuqing nodded. Let's forget about the past. I'll take my leave first. Even if Nangong Yuqing said that he didn't care, his cold demeanor showed that he didn't intend to bury the hatchet. Brother Nangong, wait. Seeing that Nangong Yuching was about to leave, Han Bowen quickly stopped him. Chapter 58:13. Seeing that Nangong Yuching didn't seem to want to talk to him, Han Bowen didn't mind and kept a gentle smile on his face. I think I heard you mention Di Bei-chun just now. Han Bowen asked tentatively. I heard that they died at the pavilion in the middle of the lake. Is that true? Nangong Yuching looked at Han Bowen suspiciously. Is there a conflict between you and Di Bei-chun? There isn't much of a conflict. I'm just curious about this matter. If you don't want to tell me, then I don't need to tell you. Nangong Yuching lazily withdrew his gaze. We still have to continue looking for opportunities, so we won't accompany you. Brother Nangong, why are you in such a hurry? Han Bowen sighed inwardly. Nangong Yuching was also a shrewd person. If he didn't make things clear, then he definitely wouldn't tell him the truth. Thinking of this, he made a decision. Actually, when I was in the ancient battlefield, I saw Jiang Wenyan obtain a treasure. At that time, I was planning to snatch it, but I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to suddenly appear and let them escape. Later, I heard that they had died, but I didn't believe it. Maybe they had encountered other opportunities. If I could see them again, I would also like to. Before he finished speaking, his meaning couldn't be more obvious. Nangong Yuching didn't expect Han Bowen to be so clear about the matter, but he was very interested in the treasure. Do you know what kind of treasure Jiang Wenyan obtained? Han Bowen shook his head. I'm not too sure. At that time, he was in a cave. It should have been left behind by a senior from the ancient battlefield. At that time, he immediately put it away, so we didn't even have a chance to see it. However, you've also been in the battlefield, so you should know how amazing the treasures of those seniors are. Their tyrannical auras aren't something we can touch, but Jiang Wenyan obtained one. I think it must be something amazing. Han Bowen guessed. Now can you tell me if you know anything about Di Bei-chun? Nangong Yuching hesitated for a moment before saying, They are indeed not dead. I just saw them. Han Bowen's eyes lit up, but he wasn't surprised. As expected, where are they now? Over there. Nangong Yuching pointed ahead. Big brother. When Huangfu Chun saw Nangong Yuching point out Di Bei-chun's position, he couldn't help but look at Huangfu Gang. After knowing that Di Bei-chun and Huangfu Ting were extremely close, he had already treated Di Bei-chun as one of his own. Naturally, he didn't want anything to happen to Di Bei-chun. Huangfu Gang only glanced at him indifferently, his expression cold and distant. You don't need to worry about this. But just as Huangfu Chun was about to explain himself, he saw Huangfu Gang turn his head away. He didn't even seem to be interested in talking to him. Letting out a faint sigh in his heart, Huangfu Chinboy understood that his previous actions had completely angered his second brother, so he did not bother with him at all. It seemed that whatever he said was already useless. Thank you, Brother Nangong. A smile appeared on Han Bowen's face. He cupped his hands and prepared to leave with his team. Chapter 58:14. Han Bowen paused and raised his eyebrows. Brother Nangong, why don't we go together? There aren't many treasures in the ancient battlefield, but each of them should be incredible. As long as we take them back, we'll split them equally. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, he was worried. Just Bailey Hongzhuang was difficult enough to deal with, let alone Di Bei-chun. Even though they hadn't been in the upper realms for long, they were all difficult to deal with. Nangong Yuching turned to Huangfu Gang. Brother Huangfu, what do you think? He had seen the strength of Di Bei-chun and Di Bei-chun, even if his current cultivation was higher than theirs. After experiencing the Immortal Cloud's secret territory, he was afraid of the strength of these two people. The Darkness Attribute Taboo technique was terrifying. Even if their two teams worked together, they might not be able to deal with it. Didn't he want to teach Di Bei-chun a lesson to regain the face he lost? However, he didn't dare to act rashly. When Han Bowen saw Nangong Yuching's actions, he was surprised. The fewer people there were, the better. If there were too many people, there would be less to split. Of course, he didn't have any objections. The Huangfu family's strength was well known. Since he was here, they couldn't ignore him. That's right, Brother Huangfu. This is a good opportunity. Huang Fuqin couldn't help but feel anxious. But before he could say anything, Huang Fugang had already refused. You guys go, I won't go. Huang Fugang said to Nangong Yuqing, Brother Nangong, we'll meet again if fate wills it. Hearing this, Nangong Yuqing felt that it was a pity, but he didn't try to persuade him. After what happened, Huang Fugang probably didn't want to face Huang Futing again. Sure enough, dealing with family matters was the most troublesome. Huang Fugang gave the order. Although the Huangfu family's cultivators were curious about this matter, they all left. Brother Nangong, are they difficult to deal with? Is that why you want to ask Huang Fugang for help? Han Bowen asked. Nangong Yuqing's expression darkened. He nodded and then shook his head. They're difficult to deal with, but it shouldn't be difficult for our two teams to deal with them. That's good. Han Bowen let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had found a helper. Otherwise, the result would have been terrible. Even if he didn't come, I wanted to go back and take a look. I feel that they're in a strange place. What do you mean? Han Bowen calmed down and carefully listened to Nangong Yuqing's thoughts. After Nangong Yuqing explained the situation to Han Bowen understood what was going on. According to what you said, this matter is indeed a little strange. Let's go and take a look. The two of them hit it off immediately. If they were going alone, they would still be a little worried. However, with a companion, things would be different. By the way, did you see Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So along the way? Han Bowen shook his head. No, but the enmity between the Jun family and the Di family is deep. They disappeared together. Since Di Beiqin and the others are still alive, I'm afraid that Jun Lingxuan and Xiao So are in danger. Chapter 58:15. Possession. Even someone as calm as Han Bowen couldn't help but raise his voice at this moment. This was too shocking. Could it be that he doesn't want to admit that he killed Jun Lingxuan? So he deliberately made up this reason? Impossible. Nangong Yuqing shook his head with certainty. I've dealt with him before. Although I don't like Di Beichun, I have to say that he's a straightforward person. If he really killed Jun Lingxuan, then he shouldn't deny it, let alone make up such an unacceptable reason. Seeing this, Han Bowen stared at Nangong Yuqing. He didn't know why Nangong Yuqing was so sure, but he was inclined to believe it. I understand. Han Bowen nodded slightly. He had already made up his mind. If he saw Jun Lingxuan in the future, it would be best to stay away from him. Otherwise, if he really was a peerless expert, who knew what the result would be? After Huang Futing's matter was resolved, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were in a very good mood. Among them, the most obvious was the group of darkness cultivators. Although this was Huang Futing's matter, they also seemed to have seen hope. If Huang Futing could bravely take this step, then so could they. Who didn't want to be with the person they liked? Hongzhuang, let's leave this place for now. Di Beichun saw that everyone had calmed down and said, we'll attract too much attention if we stay here. Nangong Yuqing is already suspicious. With his temperament, I don't think he'll let go of this opportunity. Maybe he's not far away, waiting to see what we do. Everyone looked at each other. Di Beichun's words were indeed reasonable. Nangong Yuqing had already asked this question before. That's right. Then let's leave first. It won't be too late to come back at night, Bali Yanche said. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Let's go. Everyone walked forward, but they didn't follow Huang Fu Gang's direction. They didn't want to run into him again. It would be best if they never ran into him again. After everyone had walked for a while, they suddenly saw a familiar figure on the way. However, when they saw this person, they did not find it strange at all. Only the person beside him caused their expressions to darken. Nangong Yuqing, did you come back because you missed us? Di Beichun looked at the surprised Nangong Yuqing with a mocking expression. This guy's suspicions were really heavy. According to Nangong Yuqing's thoughts, Di Beichun's group should have stayed there for a long time, but now they had left. Could it be that his judgment was wrong? Han Bowen also looked at Nangong Yuqing with a puzzled expression. Nangong Yuqing had made a solemn vow before, but now it seems that he wasn't. Han Bowen, we meet again. Jiang Wenyan's handsome face was filled with endless coldness. His ink-black eyes were filled with a cold seriousness. If Bailey Hongzhuang hadn't happened to appear, he wouldn't be in this world right now. Feeling the murderous intent in Jiang Wenyan's voice, Han Bowen's expression changed slightly. The corner of his mouth raised into a faint smile. Yes, what a coincidence. Originally, Deep Beichun didn't know Han Bowen, but when he heard this name, his deep eyes were covered with a layer of darkness. When he saw Jiang Wenyan earlier, he had already mentioned this matter. Chapter 58:16. Nangong Yuqing. It seems you want to fight us to the end. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was cold, her voice full of disgust and provocation. When you left, I thought you had changed your temperament, but now it seems that it's really easy to change a leopard's spots. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Nangong Yuqing's expression became somewhat awkward. In fact, if it weren't for Han Bowen's appearance, he really wouldn't have wanted to confront Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. According to his original plan, he wanted to hide and observe Di Beichun and the others. But now that Han Bowen appeared, the smoke of gunpowder suddenly filled the air. Looking at Nangong Yuqing's tangled appearance, Han Bowen was secretly surprised. He didn't expect Nangong Yuqing to be so afraid of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It was really beyond his expectations. Jiang Wenyan, I'm sure you know why we're here, so there's no need to beat around the bush. Take out the thing, and this matter will be over. Di Beichun suddenly sneered, his long and narrow eyes narrowed dangerously, flashing a cold light that made people's hearts turn cold. Who gave you the courage to be so arrogant? His cold voice was filled with extreme arrogance, and his disdainful eyes were enough to intimidate everyone. Just his expressionless face alone was enough to give people endless pressure. Facing Deep Beichun, Han Bowen suddenly felt his hands and feet turn cold, and the fear that came from the bottom of his heart spread uncontrollably. His heart was frantically trembling. This was the first time he had come into contact with Di Beichun, and the latter's aura was simply extraordinary. Qin Yunsek's eldest senior brother, Qin Hongliang, seeing this, stood in front of Han Bowen. His aura, as steady as a mountain, made Han Bowen breathe a sigh of relief. Young Master D, this is the first time we've met. You really live up to your reputation. Qin Hongliang's expression was calm, as if he didn't feel the terrifying aura. Di Beichun narrowed his eyes. Whether it was strength or mental strength, Qin Hongliang was obviously stronger than Han Bowen, but he wasn't affected in the slightest. He really did have some ability. Same here. Young Master D, we have no intention of being your enemy. Qin Hongliang's calm voice carried a calming power as he slowly said, as far as I know, this item was discovered by my junior brother and young Lord Jiang at the same time. It's normal for us to want to snatch it. I don't think it's possible for you to not interfere, but I also hope that you understand that we're all standing on our own side. I also hope that you won't take it to heart. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also looked at Qin Hongliang in surprise. This person's words were quite interesting. Judging from his words, today's battle was unavoidable, but he hoped that they wouldn't be enemies in the future. Di Beichun quietly glanced at Qin Hongliang. The corners of his lips hooked up into a mischievous smile. Just when everyone thought that he would agree, his tone suddenly changed. You think what you said makes sense? Qin Hongliang was stunned. Han Bowen first wanted to kill my brother, then he attacked my wife. If it weren't for the fact that you're no match for my wife, you wouldn't have hesitated to make a move, right? Now, you're telling me that we'll be friends even if we meet? Your thinking is too simple. A cool breeze blew, and his white robe and black hair fluttered in the wind. That devilish face was even more captivating. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.